bird on a tree.
Hi everyone, this is Monica Ramirez, Warrior of Love, and today we are presenting a very special poet that I met a while back in San Antonio. I have the pleasure to read some of my poetry with her in High Wire in San Antonio, and let me tell you who she is. Her name is Garcia Fennell. Victoria Garcia Fennell is a San Antonio poet and activist. She's an author of 3 collections of poetry and one which won the Premio Poesia Tejana. Victoria has been featured in Dallas Morning News, in San Antonio Express News, and San Antonio Current, Backbeat magazine, and NPR. Victoria is a mother, wife, daughter, sister, tia, and she's an artist, an educator, and a healer. She's a Guadalupana at St. Anne's since 2018 for over 5 years. Victoria has hosted an open mic monthly at Barrio in the neighborhood in which she grew up in. She's currently working in her first screenplay with her love of her life, Taj James Fennell. Victoria, it's really my pleasure
All right.
to have you here, and it's really my honor. I really have the pleasure to read with her in High Wire a while back in San Antonio, and I have one of her books, and she's a really great person. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you, Monica, for having me on your program.
Victoria, I have asked this question to myself first of all, and I have asked this question to other poets. How, because I started writing poetry when I was a teenager, but I did not consider myself a poet then. It took me many years until I actually called myself poet. And with you, how was your process? How do you actually start calling yourself poet?
I think it wasn't until other people called me a poet. Um, I've been reading poetry since I was 3 with my mom's poetry that she had in her closet hidden away before she's now a published poet. But my process as early as that, my dad would read Shakespeare and all of the classics to us and have us recite poetry back at age 2 and 3. And so that was my first love of poetry. And then in school, I was reintroduced to poetry through my school teachers. Miss Evans in 2nd grade, I would recite Robert Frost poems, and whoever memorized the entire poem would get to go recite it for the principals, which was a big deal. And so I was rather proud of that. It's kind of ironic because now I can hardly remember. Well, I have one of my poems memorized fully, and it's all in Spanish. But anyway, that was a treat. And then in 4th grade, that's when we learned. I mean, it continued throughout the years, but Miss Seichi in 4th grade taught us about haiku and all kinds of wordplay and poetry, and I started writing probably not probably, for sure in the 4th grade is when I started writing, and I was really into haiku. And then again, I won some writing awards in junior high for an essay I wrote about Pope John Paul II. And I was starting to write poetry to my friends. And I think it was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade is when other friends of mine would tell me, oh, you're a poet. And I aspired to become a poet when I grew up. In my 8th grade graduation book, the 2 things that I wanted to be when I grew up was a fashion designer and a poet. So I accomplished one. And finally in high school, Miss Anita Arnold was most influential in introducing me to poets such as Pat Mora, Ana Castillo. Pat Mora was my first love after my mom's being, again, Imelda Zapata Garcia is my first influence for sure, my mother as a poet. And, but then Pat Mora reawakened something in me that I thought, wow, you know, I can write in my own voice and claim this voice as my own. And then, you know, soon everybody else fell after that. But I had to write a poem, and I wrote a poem called Frida in the Nude in my senior year. And I won an award. It was supposed to be bilingual or in Spanish. And I wrote it, you know, bilingual, really code switching. And which was the way my mom wrote and does write. And so it was more of a reintroduction because, like I said, my mom had already taught me that you know, at 3, 4, or 5 in my primary years. And so I think that first being published in high school with the Each Has Spoken, which is with the San Antonio Public Library, they put out that book every year. And I, along with about 7 other students of Anita Arnold's, we were all published. Celeste Guzman Mendoza is in that book, and, you know, fellow writer, and so many other people, but I can't think of everyone's names right now. But anyway, so in high school, I started publishing poetry. And then honestly, I want to say was being in the first Macondo and sitting in there with amongst people like Barbara Renault Gonzalez and Maria Limon and Carla Trujillo, and I mean, I can't rename everybody's name right now. I wish I had the picture with me to tell you all the people that were in there. But Joe Reyes Boitel is another name that comes to mind. But certainly Sandra Cisneros giving me permission to say, you are a poet. You can call yourself a poet. That certainly did it for me, I think, at an early age. And I was, you know, 20 years old. And so I was very, very young. And I still, I think it was years later that I realized, well, that is, I see eyes through, my eyes are those of a poet, an artist. And I've known that probably my whole life, but to give myself permission to call myself a poet, certainly it's other people that, you know, call me that, or you know, have given me that title, if you will.
That is very interesting. And I remember when the Pope, Juan Pablo II, went to Mexico, I actually wrote a poem. I was about 9 years old or something like that. And it came out in the TV. They were reading my poem, and it was like, oh, wow. And and I still then didn't call myself poet. It came many
No,
years.
yeah, of course, not as a child. I never would. But well, I was practically a child at 20, but I was a mother already. You know, I grew up pretty quickly, if you will. And so at 20, I became a mother, and then also was by 21, I want to say, is when, let's see, March. No, Papa was a baby. So yeah, it was 1995 that I was sitting amongst some of these brilliant writers that I still admire to this day. But maybe closer to 24, 25, I think it was the poet Sandra Cisneros that told me, oh, you know, Angel Rodriguez Diaz and Rolando Briceño, my artist friends, said, Victoria, she really is a poet. And I think it was other artists, you know, in other mediums, because really, truly, those are my big influences are my fellow artists.
Yes. And I know we all have a ritual as an artist, and we're all different. There's not the same thing, like, get a notebook. Some of them might get a computer, some of them they need a coffee, or some of them, I don't know, a clean area. I don't know. We all have different rituals because we're all different. And what is your ritual when you're going to start writing poetry?
I like to paint. Recently, I've been watercoloring, dabbling in watercolors, and when I'm being creative, my ritual, it's not so much of a ritual, but um, I like to have I like to meditate through prayer. So I pray. I write freehand. I like to edit on the computer, but I do not write on the computer. Or, I don't, I write freehand. And that's how I've always written. Um, sorry,
Yeah,
my
it's,
light. Um,
it is a different feeling when you write it by hand than when you write it in a computer. I noticed that. I don't know what it is,
I've
but it
written
feels
freehand
better.
in my journals, and then I can, will transfer that, and then to, to type it up and edit, etc. But one of the things that I like to do besides pray, I like to have sometimes light incense, or, you know, um, I guess I believe in aromatherapy pretty much. I don't believe in it's not that I don't guess I do. I do believe in it. I believe in natural holistic medicines, and so I do like to have quiet, certainly, around me. So that's important. And sometimes it's just waking up in the night, if I can't sleep. If I can't sleep, then I certainly that's a telltale that I need to write. And so, or, watercolor or something. Be creative.
Yes, many artists were night owls. I have met morning artists, but there are a few of them that I have met through the time I've been an artist. The majority we are night owls. We get inspired at night, right?
That's true. Lately, my schedule has changed. And so I am up early in the wee hours, about 6:30 in the morning, but I'll take a nap. Always take a nap. I love my naps.
Yes, yes, we all, yes, my schedule is kind of like that. I take naps because I can be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to sleep at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I have to have a nap at least, and then I can go on, and then I haven't taken a nap like a baby.
Yeah,
I don't know, but that's how it's been lately. And I read in your bio that you are a healer. Can you explain me a little bit, because I am a healer too, so that's why I'm asking you.
I I heal through massage therapy and teas and herbs, um, things that my mom has passed on to me, like using estafiate for your, stomach ailments, and mint, yerba buena, just different hierbas, to help, hibiscus for calming, etc. Like,
Cough.
yeah, just I also feel that through our sharing of life experience, And through my art, I know that I have helped people heal, or at least begin the process of healing. And when I say healer, like I just mean more like curanderismo
Yeah,
is, what I practice. Curanderismo.
that is cool. And also I read that you're an activist. I used to be an activist, and I can say I am an activist, but in a different way. After being in many protests and after being in many things, my way of protesting or my way of becoming an activist, it changed. It changed more that I went more into the path of spiritual healing. It changed. In my case, I felt like if I wanted to change the world, I have to change it internally more than externally. So that's why I stopped going to protest and things like that. And what is your experience as an activist?
I think that it parallels yours. I mean, I too have pictures with Terry Ibanez and Sandra Cisneros marching in the International Women's Day March, and MLK marches, etc. Just I too was an activist in that manner, and I still participate to a degree, but I participate very limited. And also, I agree that I've come to a place in my life as well that I've focused more on healing and spirituality and being an activist through my art.
Yeah.
Absolutely through my writing and through my art, and through my of all of that, with my fellow artists and con mi comunidad. Being an educator as well is part of that. I think educators don't get the credit they deserve for the activism that they do on a daily, and being part of programs like Bill House, the Teaching Goldens with Bill House Arts, which we call it. They're Goldens because they're 55 and older. They're in their golden years, and writers. Some of the best writers I've definitely come across for sure are some of my students. And I think by actively being part of the community, that in and of itself is a form of activism. Creating the spaces like the Barrio Barista that I had open for 5 years. I hosted open mic for 5 years, and I had poets of all ages, class, gender, race. I mean, just it was very diverse, especially for San Antonio. And in that way, I plan on bringing that back. Because of COVID, of course, we had to shut down, and then I can't announce when it'll be back because Barrio Barista is under construction right now. But certainly, we hope to be in the fall of this year.
Then were you you're an educator? I'm sorry, I did not catch that.
I teach creative writing to students through Bill House Arts, poetry, creative, and then at different senior centers. And then I'm a substitute teacher for Harlandale Independent School District. So I wouldn't call myself an educator with that job so much but I'm part of the process of it, of that education system. But I think it's more as a mother educating my children. I've 2 grown children now, and one almost grown. He just turned 17. So there's still a lot of educating to do with this. Even my 18-year-old daughter, of course, she's got a lot to learn still. I think I know the one that I've done a really wonderful job educating as a mother anyway, is my 26-year-old Francisco. And he's truly independent, and I don't worry about him. Anyway.
I think as a mothers we continue educating them all the time. I just hung up with my son, he's 30, and he was asking me a bunch of questions, and I was trying to educate him in this and that, or my 32-year-old, and I don't think we're gonna stop that part of educating them or teaching them different things about life or advising them.
Grow and learn, right?
That part I don't think is never gonna stop. People that have sleep all night calmly and with the phone off is people that don't have kids. I think so. I might be wrong in this one. Don't get me wrong for the spectators, but this is how I think, and I might be wrong.
Well, certainly you're right in that as mothers, we certainly have the phone by our side, and we're certainly ready to be awakened at any time.
Yes, yes, we do. But that is so good that actually you're teaching creative writing. I've been teaching art for, híjoles, almost 28 years or something like that. I just recently I just stopped teaching painting, and it was, and as a painter I noticed that every time I was teaching art, I was, my creativity have was, it was hard to start with me. And do you notice that with you? It's like it was like all my creativity, I give it to my students in a way. And then I have the canvas and it was like, okay, what am I gonna do? And it took me a while, like a few days without teaching before I can say, oh, I'm gonna be using this color, so I'm gonna be doing this. I don't know what it was when I was teaching and creating art. For you, is the same thing as in creative writing, or is not?
Well, I'm very much inspired by my students. I haven't been teaching recently because of COVID. But so I can say that honestly, I have been creating more now that I'm not teaching. I'm certainly working on my own work and spending time on creating more than teaching. So yes, I think that I agree with you on that. As an educator, well, I know I did tend to, I learned more from my students than I felt that I actually taught them, especially the Goldens. I mean, when you sit and listen to these stories written by, a 90-year-old man who's grew up in the mountains of Puerto Rico, and he's writing about his story, certainly that is going to teach me a multitude of wisdom and magnitude of creativity and joy that I could never fathom on my own, I'm 46 years old. And so those experiences are precious to me.
Yes, the teaching, it doesn't matter what age we're teaching. Everybody's gonna be our students. We're not only teachers, we become the students when we teach. That's something that I have learned too.
Yeah.
What is I read also in your biography that Guadalupana St. Anne's. What did that means for our spectators?
Oh, okay. Well, Guadalupana is or Guadalupanos practice. We have a mission to spread the I don't know how to say this in the wrong way, but anyway, the Virgen de Guadalupe is what we focus on, and spirituality and the message that the Virgen de Guadalupe has for us. And so our mission is to reach those in need, those that can't come to church. Maybe we take them Eucharist or we pray with them. We have special masses. I'm devout Catholic, and I was raised in Catholic and went to Catholic school from 1st through 8th grade, and then went to Our Lady of the Lake University, which is a Catholic university. I'm very involved with my faith and my spirituality. And we pray the rosary. We honor this feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe every year with a special mass and danzantes. We have a pilgrimage to the Basilica where we honor the Virgen de Guadalupe. And it's just remembering, it's really all based in Christianity. And, but it is a special devotion, if you will, to the Virgen de Guadalupe, and having this kind of special relationship with our Blessed Mother. And I mean, I wear the image of Virgen de Guadalupe because, not just because my mother gifted this to me, but because I do believe in divine intervention. I do believe in the power of prayer. And I do share the faith of Catholicism and Catholics, Roman Catholics. Right now, I can proudly say I'm Roman Catholic because I do agree with, Pope Francis, as far as some of the new teachings that he has. And they're not new teachings actually, but he has acknowledged, that we are all God's children, that despite our background, or, I don't know, I agree with his philosophies as opposed to some of the other popes in the past. So, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And now let's go back to the poet part, the artist part. I would like to ask you. This is a question that we're all our spectators. Some of them might be poets, some might be just art lovers, and in a way, I wanted to so they can hear firsthand from an artist how is the hard part of being a poet. It's not that or any kind of artist. It's not so easy just to, oh, I just start painting and let's continue painting and let me make a career or let me become a poet and I'm gonna pay all my bills with that, things like that. So because people think it is easier than it is. It's more our passion, but I wanted to hear it from a poet, that published writer, a published poet, that how hard it is, how hard or how easy it's been for you to make a survival as a poet.
Oh, well. I I could not say I could make a living off of poetry. No. I don't. It's always been a passion of mine, and it's extremely difficult, but I don't self-promote. I don't have an agent. Uh, I don't meet deadlines very easily. It's really difficult. Um, but I don't, certainly, I think I'd have to say that for me, I'd have to say that, I literally, the last book that I published in 2015, I sold on my own. And I sold it from anywhere from places like a local bar like the Mix to places like AWP, you know, in San Antonio during COVID or right before COVID hit. You know what I mean? Like I they're at the bookstores or on the streets, you know. I it wasn't it's not easy at all. Um and I wouldn't say that I could never say that I've survived or had a livelihood as a poet. No way.
Do you think do you think it would be easier if we have promoters for artists or agents for artists that they're almost none. A long time ago, as a painter, I was looking for them. They tell me, stop looking for them. You're not
No,
gonna find them so
no,
easy.
in our time, you know, we have to promote. If you want to, you have to promote yourself. um I mean, unless, you know, you're some kind of I don't know. If you're famous, or, you know, if you already had that behind you, if you will, all that support. um I was published by a small press, and this doesn't exist anymore. And then self-published my last book. And now what I'm doing is creating handmade books. I wrote it, I did this backwards. It's called Love in the Time of Corona. Love in the Time of Corona, and it's a love poem, and it's I hand painted it, and the poem is on each, you know,
That is
and
very pretty.
and um and so anyway, it was a wedding gift to um to my husband, Taj Fennell. And so I don't I don't plan on selling. You know, if I I'm writing, and if I publish another book, if anyone publishes it, that'd be great. But if, you know, I don't, I just am not about self promotion. And, you know, I think in this day and age, you really have to be, if you want to be um, out there in the scene, you know, and if you want your work to be recognized, then you do have to put it out there, if you will. And, um, it's important. I see other poets. My sister is one of them. My mother is another one. But Andy Garcia Lynn, you know, she just came out in the local newspaper, La Prensa, for an open mic that she's hosting with some friends of hers. Mandy Lynn Lara and Joyous Winwriter. And they, so they're out there, you know what I mean? They're doing something. And so you have to really be on the scene and involved. And um, I, right now in this point in my life, I'm more focused on creating than I am about promoting myself, you know. And I don't worry about that so much. I just worry about well, I don't worry about it. I just create art when I feel like it.
It's because it is very hard. Something that 2020 actually taught me. It
Mhm.
was like learning how to survive as an artist, but in a different way, and
Mhm.
understanding that the mentality of the poor artist, it was not gonna work if I have to pay my bills.
Right.
So it taught me how to use social media, how to do content, how to do all this. And I took many classes for how to promote and use social medias. I'm still not an expert in Instagram, but learning how to do it and learning how to schedule posts and things like that, because or else it's just survival, guys. It's just survival. And it's not that is very hard for artists actually create and promote and publish and make the business side, because there is a myth that artists, we should not be focused on the money, but then we need to survive, we need to pay our bills.
Oh, it's true. Absolutely. I agree with you.
So
And
that, yeah.
many friends of mine have become, Eddie Vega is one of them. Anthony the Poet is another. Tammy Gomez, she just stayed with me recently, and she gifted me this one of her small books that she makes, and so anyhow, she was here for Cine Festival, but I kind of wanted to talk about things like that that inspire me, uh, people that inspire me. But she as an artist, I think as artists, part of our survival is being there and supporting each other,
Mhm.
right? Like you're doing now. And I think it's very important that we, as a community, that we're here for each other and that we support each other, one another, and in whether it be buying, chapbooks or sharing our stories, or however, in whatever way possible way that we can, we should definitely uplift each other,
Yes,
because that is how we can, I think that's what makes our art valid, is and worthwhile.
yes, I agree. And the competition, it should not be in our agenda of any of us, because we're all different. It doesn't matter, they give us a theme, we're all gonna write it different, or we're all gonna paint it different, because we have our own style. So there is no such a thing in competition for artists. That's ridiculous.
I agree with you 100%.
So yes, and I know there is egos between all the artists. It doesn't matter, you're a musician, you're a painter, you're a poet, you're whatever. But that things should not be, and you're very right. We should all support each other more. We should be a more close niche. Well, not close niche. We should be open niche, but
Sure.
supporting niche. So like that, will be a good community all around the world, because like that we can support all around the world.
Yeah.
Together.
My mom just came out with this, edited this book, Absolutely Poetry, and John Remy and Steve Wheeler co-edited this book with her. Well, it's like number 6 on Amazon in the UK, because that's where it was put out. And so my sister's also Abril Andrea Garcia Lynn is in this book, and I think it's really exciting because maybe another interview, you can interview my mom. She might be interested, but she she's, her work is now like international, right? And so it's exciting. It's exciting to, she feels really connected to humanity, if you will, by having friends across the globe. And I feel the same way, you know, different artist friends, different mediums, whether they be musicians, Japanese punk rock band from Tokyo, or uh, a French musician. It doesn't matter whether it's art, what kind of art it is, but we as artists, be it musicians, filmmakers, writers, uh,
Dancers, musicians.
all of us, we all have to share with each other, and make this world so much more joyful, and healing, and revolving and evolving.
Do you agree with this statement? I always have said that artists, we are storytellers. Why?
Yeah,
Because we're telling the story of our time. It doesn't matter what media we use, but we're storytellers.
Yes, I agree with that. Definitely.
I
Yes.
yes, we
I,
can a very different world if we were more we would respect each other as a community, as an artist, and we will be respected more outside too at the same time.
yes, I do agree with that. You know, I'm sorry. Go.
Yes, and I wanted to ask you how hard is to publish a book, because many spectators they think, oh, it's so easy, so simple. And
No. Well,
so they see
my
all the
first
full story.
an award that was given out, and really by Sandra Cisneros, the Premio Poesia Tejana, and she was the judge the year that I won the publication of my first book, Peace in the Corazon. And so that book, oh, here's a tattered copy. I have a good copy somewhere, but oh, here it is. It has the artwork of Terry Ibanez, a local artist from San Antonio. Um, and so this book was, goodness. Okay, so this book was an award, and even though I begged her not to blurb my book, she did it. Um, so that was very, it was very helpful, obviously, because as the book sold out in the first 6 months, and then I did a second publication, or they did a second publication, the small press. But it's very difficult to get your book published. Nowadays, there are some really important presses like Aslan Libre Press and Flower Song Press, just to name a couple, that are doing some incredible work, putting out anthologies and putting out individual art poets. Like Irene Lara Silva is one of my favorite contemporary writers out of Austin, just period. But she's out of Austin, based in Austin. And, she can tell you, she's a prolific writer, and she's published with smaller presses as well. But it's I couldn't tell you how difficult it is to publish with a big, large press, because I've never done it. I've never. Penguin Press published two of my poems with the first paperback anthology of Latina poetry called Floricanto Si. And that was the first time I was published and probably the only time I was published in a large press like Penguin. But it is extremely difficult. You really have to submit your work and send it out and get it out there, and get rejected a whole lot of times.
Yes. How do you deal with the rejections part? The other day, I was interviewing painters with the rejections through galleries, and how do they deal with rejections? How do you deal with the rejections? That is a tough one.
You just accept it. I mean, well, I personally, I just accepted that, this is not what they were looking for, or, and move on to the next, and honestly, I never write for anyone's acceptance. I just write because I'm creating. And so if it's accepted, wonderful. If it's not, no problem. Move on to the next. So I don't worry about it too much. Put it that way.
Do you have a poem that you would like to share with us?
Sure. I thought about it before I got on this interview with you, and my poem that I have to share, the only one I have memorized, and it is in my first book, Peace in the Corazon. I'm gonna have it to glance in case.
Good.
It's called Prescription for Paz. Ciudades pueden ser comunidad o encerrar. Hijos del sol, hijos cósmicos, hijo mío, nuestros hijos inocentes solamente son los niños, con el poder de enseñar a amar sin condiciones. Y contra la lucha son los sin apoyo para toda la vida. Que el valor de todos sea igual. Nuestra gente, no podemos cargar tanto odio que nos puede matar poco a poco. And that's an older piece. It's an acrostic poem, and it spells out the word Chicano. And then the poem that I wrote more recently, Love in the Time of Corona. I can read that one if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to pierce your eyes, oscuras azul, with my honeyed gaze. Grab hold your thick amber hair on your diesel thighs. I want to stare into the chasm of your tantalizing, staring, starry stare. Oh, wow, I can't read my own writing. I have it written, it's because I painted all over. Okay, here we go. Let me start over if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Go ahead.
Okay. Love in the Time of Corona. I want to pierce your eyes, oscuras, azul, with my honeyed gaze. Grab hold your thick amber hair on your diesel thighs. I want to stare into the chasm of your tantalizing starry stare. So dreamy are your peepers. Other women get lost in them and say so right in front of me, right in front of my face. We canoodle nightly entre día y noche. Tú y yo hacemos el amor. Amor más dulce que miel con canela. Yes, our love is sweeter than grape jam, sweeter than my Grammy's fig jelly, you tell me. As I write for you candied apple prose poetry for you, my darling Valentine. So I have some other, newer work, but I just write in Spanish and English, code switching. Let's see. I don't know if you wanted to hear anything else, or
I wanted to ask you if you can tell us, it is possible, you can tell us a little bit about the screenplay that you're doing with your husband.
Well, no, because it's a surprise.
Okay,
No.
okay, yeah, you understand. That's why I say if you can tell us.
Yeah.
But it is very cool that you're writing that screenplay.
We're working on developing a screenplay, and I went to Cine Festival this year, and I saw my friend Tammy Melody Gomez. I saw Tammy's short film Trash, and before that I was already inspired. I was sharing with her. I went to see I went on opening night for Juanito's Lab, about Juanito Castillo, the film that was made by Guillermina Zavala and Enrique Lupeteguer, and Antonio Rodriguez was their editor, I believe. And so that was so inspiring, by the way. But if you ever get a chance to see that film, you must. But I was sharing with Tammy that we sat through some really bad short films, and I'm sorry to say that, but they were just they're written in the male perspective, but they were, unfortunately, there were and just old stereotypes and very patriarchy, misogynistic, and male dominated. And for that reason, Tammy said, this is why we need to write our own stories. And I said, yeah, absolutely right. We all have our own perspectives and our own points of views. And I think it'll be interesting because what we are writing about are, stories that have to deal with life, of course, and just I really can't and won't say much about it other than certainly misogyny and racism and bigotry have no place in art right now, as far as, unless it's being shown to be the evil that it is, and I just can't sit and not write from a more progressive standpoint. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. That's why I was said that artists, we are storytellers of our time. And
Yeah,
that's it is very important that we all, it doesn't matter if it's a female or male, to tell our story, because we all have stories that create us, to get us where we are. And I believe also that artists, we write about pain or love, and it depends on where we are. It depends on the emotion we are, where we are living. That's how it's gonna come out. That's why it's so important that we express it in whatever way we can. It's in writing, in music, in painting, in dancing, in acting, or whatever it is. But it is important that we express it.
absolutely. And in our native cultures, there were actually 5 genders, not just male or female, but certainly we forget those things, right? But any perspective is important, that we share each other's stories. Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with you. Where do you see yourself in 10 years as an artist?
um I'd like to see that in my writing, and I really do love watercolor painting. I do love painting, and I enjoy it so much. And I want to say that as an artist, I want to be certainly more evolved, more open to other mediums, other type forms of writing, not just poetry. And film has always been one of my secret passions, if you will, but just as an someone who enjoys film, right? But I've not delved in writing for film, or also writing for like songwriting is something that I've always wanted to take part in. I've been invited by musicians to sit with them and write. So that's something that I want to see in 10 years. I'd like to see that I've maybe helped write a song that might have been made into music, brought to music or brought to life. Um, Certainly, maybe I will have a screenplay under my belt. you know, um, Even if it's a film, it doesn't have to be feature film, right? And and then I do plan on pursuing more painting as well. So
Very,
those are some of the things that I'd like to see um, continue and grow as an artist.
I do agree. I have also a play that I did for children that I wanted to see one day in the theater. Hopefully, I agree. Victoria, would you like to say something else before we give our thanks to everybody?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just like to say that I just want to thank everyone who's with us today, listening, and I want to thank you, especially Monica, um, for creating this platform for artists, for those of us artists that want to share a little bit about us, ourselves with each other um, through this podcast or this program that you've created. And
Thank you.
yeah, so thank you for this opportunity.
I believe it's important that artists we are get to self known around the world because a lot of people from around the world is going to be listening to it. I have many people from Australia, from New Zealand, and so forth, and from South Africa. They're going to be listening to it, and I believe it is important. Artists we need to these spaces so we educate at the same time because many people do not understand our process of creation or what we have to pass, and it's important to us at the same time. From the voice of an artist, they know what we pass through our process of creation and our process of actually surviving as an artist too. And it's not so simple, not so easy, but at the same time we do it because it's our passion. So that's why I created the Heart of the Artist talk, because I believe that it is important. Thank
Yes,
and thank you for everybody that is seeing the video, and if you're seeing the replay, please hashtag replay. I will appreciate it very much. If you have any questions, write your questions in there. As soon as we see them, I will, Victoria or me, we will be answering them, or I will tag her so like that she can see those questions. And I wanted to also announce that tomorrow on Monday, we're gonna have in Soul Talk, we're gonna have Marian Sabino. She's a soul alchemist. She's one of my mentors in light language, and she's gonna be tomorrow in our in Soul Talk. And the next week in the Heart of the Artist Talk, we're gonna have Alma Dominguez. She's the president of Pintoras Mexicanas, and an amazing artist. And I would highly recommend you them too. Thank you so much to everybody, and don't hang up. Just let me finish this. Thank you
sure.
very much, everybody, and for seeing the Heart of the Artist talk. Thank you.